Coming up on our very first show, we have stories about dresses, stories about imaginary friends, stories about attacking owls, and stories about holes in the ground. All on this week's Weird News.
And now, it's time for this week's Weird News with Daniel Bryan.
Hello and welcome to a brand new podcast, dedicated to bringing you weird and wonderful news stories from around the world. Each week, I shall be searching the net and sharing 4 stories with you that you can get in touch with your views and comments. These stories will be ranging from the downright outrageous to the rather bizarre. My name is Daniel Bryan, and I live here in Oxfordshire in the United Kingdom. I first had the idea for this podcast from my love of reading different news stories online and finding stories that I found interesting. I would then find myself telling my friends and colleagues about them. So instead of telling my close friends and family, now I can tell you as well. So thank you for joining me here in the shed on our first half hour, and I hope that you find a story or two that you'll want to tell your mates about down the pub. You can get in touch with the show about any of our stories, or even to suggest some stories of your own that you may have come across during the week, and these may even be featured on next week's show. You can get in touch with the show in one of the following ways.
Comment on Facebook at facebook.com/thisweeksweirdnews or on Twitter at thisweeksweirdnews. Find us on Skype at thisweeksweirdnews.
Or you can go to our website at
www.thisweeksweirdnews.com.
Right, normally this section of the show is where I go through your comments from the previous week's news articles, and then we can see what you think. Don't hold back on your comments, and hopefully we can represent a broad range of views that the story may have provoked. Due to this being our first week of broadcasting, we don't have your views from any stories last week because there simply wasn't any. So this week's show is going to be slightly shorter than normal, as we can't really put anything in this part of the show. So, without further ado, we shall move on to our first news story to be featured on the show. This week's stories are from week 9, 2015, or as some people may prefer, the 23rd of February to the 1st of March.
Story number 1.
Our first story is about a dress that has caused much debate and I believe has now gone viral around the world. This, however, is not a dress worn at either the Brits or the Oscars, but one posted on Tumblr by a girl from Scotland. The reason this dress has had so much attention over the last few days is down to the simple description of colour. Some people see the dress as black and blue, others see it as white and gold. Such a difference, you would think, would be apparent to most people, but large numbers of people are seeing each colour with no clear decision as to the correct colour of the dress. Some, including my own better half, have seen the image on different occasions and seen both colours. Myself, I only see black and blue. There are now a lot of views out there as to why people see the different colours, from how light is reflected off the object and to what colours are placed next to an object. 1 in 12 men are colourblind, but even out of the guys who are not colourblind, apparently we all interpret colours differently. One thing's clear from all this press coverage of the dress is that the designers are bound to sell a lot more of them. From a quick look on their website, they now advertise it on the homepage under the hashtag #TheDress. This in itself begs the question, was this all just a publicity stunt? Or actually, is there more to it than that? I'm sure a lot of you out there have seen this dress on various social media platforms. What are your views? Blue or black? Or white or gold? If you have not seen the aforementioned dress, I shall post a picture of it on our social media accounts after the show. Get in touch with your views on the dress. Do you even like the dress? Or do you simply not see what all the fuss is about?
Story number 2.
How many people out there have actually seen an owl in the wild? Not that many, I'd imagine. How many people have seen them as silent night creatures that nest in old barns? Yeah, I guess most of us do. Have you ever been scared of them? Ever worried that they might be coming for you? Well, in Purmerend, which is roughly 12 miles north of Amsterdam, this is exactly what's happening. People are reporting that when out at night, they are being attacked by an owl. On the 24th of February, 2 runners were attacked by an owl, with one supposedly requiring stitches, and since then, another 20 attacks have been reported. The owl itself is a European eagle owl, and is one of the largest owl species in the world, with a wingspan of up to 1.8 metres wide. That's almost 6 foot, and weighing in at around 3 kilograms or 7 pounds. This is why, if it attacks you, you're going to know about it. As a precaution, the government have informed people to use umbrellas when out at night to protect themselves from the attacks. although others are taking their own precautions and using helmets and anything they can get hold of. Is this the next threat to humans? Are the owls taking charge now? Falconry experts predict that as these birds were raised in captivity, that they see us as a source of food. Other explanations could be heightened hormones in the owls due to the start of the mating season. For whatever reason it is, I'm sure the locals are hoping it would stop soon so they could all walk around without the need for a bicycle helmet. Do you like this week's weird news? Well, if so, you can sponsor us. This section of the show can be dedicated to you. We can make a tailor-made advert just to suit your needs. If you're interested, go to www.thisweeksweirdnews.com. Submit your requests on our contact page and we'll be in touch.
Story number 3.
Over the last few years in the UK, there have been numerous reports of sinkholes appearing in different locations. One notable one I remember was in the middle of a golf course, when the wonderfully tended lawn was swallowed up by the sinkhole. In 2010, in Guatemala, another sinkhole opened. This time, however, it was sizably larger. This measured 20 metres across and 30 metres deep. And because it opened up in the middle of the city, it managed to swallow a 3-storey factory. There are numerous reasons this could have come about. However, the main belief is that it was due to a combination of a tropical storm, a volcano eruption, and leaking sewer pipes. Well, this week in South Korea, another sinkhole has appeared. This time, however, not on a golf course, but on a pavement. And, to the surprise of 2 people walking down the pavement, right under their feet. CCTV footage has captured the moment when a man and a woman disappeared from sight. The hole itself was reportedly 10 foot deep, and the couple had to be rescued by lowering a man down with a crane to winch the couple back out. Officials are now looking into whether the hole was caused by construction work happening close to the site, or if it was a natural phenomenon. The couple were taken to hospital after being removed from the hole. Both were treated for minor injuries before being later released from hospital. Sinkholes can be found worldwide. They can range from anything from 1 to 600 metres in depth, so our couple were lucky that theirs was only 10 foot deep. If it had been anything bigger than that, it may not have been such a good outcome for them. This could happen to anyone, and it's simply being in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's a scary concept, and we don't really know how deep they'll be when they open up. Do you have any experiences of sinkholes, or even been unfortunate, as this couple, to actually be caught in one? Get in touch with your views.
Story number 4.
Now, we've all been late for work, or simply delayed in meeting up with a friend. But one guy in the US was late for a job interview. Being late for an interview is almost certainly a way of not getting hired. So, desperate times call for desperate measures. In the US, the Long Island Expressway has a HOV lane. This is a dedicated lane for high occupancy vehicles, where there is more than one individual in the car. They can use a special lane to avoid the main traffic and encourage people to car share and save the planet. So our guy is late for his interview. Does he use this lane to get there quicker? Well, yes he does. But he's clearly the only person in the car and he's bound to get caught, right? So, to get around this, he created a makeshift wooden body and dressed it in one of his hoodies, before strapping it into the passenger seat. From a quick glance, this could easily be someone sat with their hood up. All would have been okay for our inventive individual. However, he still decided to speed down the HOV lane, alerting a nearby policeman who promptly pulled him over. As the policeman approached the vehicle, he assumed that the person in the passenger seat was just asleep with his hood up. This isn't uncommon to see, is it? But it didn't take long for him to realise that actually this person wasn't quite as he seemed. Our man, stumbling around for things to say, not quite sure how to explain this, had to come clean. The guy tried to explain about being late for his interview, but ended up with a ticket not only for speeding at 77 miles per hour, but occupancy violation. In press interviews, the policeman in question has reported that he found it hard to maintain a straight face while issuing this man with his penalty. The one thing I want to know with this story is, how was the interview? Did he get there on time? Did he even get the job? And how did he have time to even create something like this when he was already late? Does he have them just in his cupboard ready to go for this very reason? Do you know anyone that does this too? Around the world there are different lanes like this. If you know any of these answers, please get in touch. So there we have our first 4 weird and wonderful news stories for our very first episode of this week's Weird News. Hopefully you found some of them interesting enough to tell your friends, or even write to us with your views. Remember, you can do this in any of the following ways.
Comment on Facebook at facebook.com/thisweeksweirdnews or on Twitter at thisweeksweirdnews. Find us on Skype at thisweeksweirdnews.
Or you can go to our website at
www.thisweeksweirdnews.com.
Thanks for joining us on the first episode of This Week's Weird News.
Join us next time for more weird and wonderful news from around the world. Only on This Week's Weird News. Goodbye.